Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Courtside with Beilinson Tennis, part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. We are happy to have with us tonight first-year head coach at Clemson University, Robbie Weiss. While this is Coach Weiss's first year as a head coach, by no means is this his first rodeo in coaching. He most recently came over to Clemson after having spent 3 years as the assistant coach at Alabama. As a player, Coach Weiss won his high school state championship in Illinois at the school where I currently coach at. Shout out Glenbrook North Spartans. He also won the NCAA Singles Championship while he was at Pepperdine. And while on the Pro Tour, he had wins over guys named Becker, Edberg, Lendl and Rafter, who all were number one in the world at one point. Please welcome to the pod, Coach Robbie Weiss. Coach, thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here, and happy to join you today. And I know that we have something in common.
Yeah, we're gonna bring you back down memory lane quite a bit. And like I said, I know you've had wins over the likes of Becker, Edberg, Lendl and Rafter, among many others. But I mean, come on, a beautiful spring day in high school tennis in Northbrook, Illinois. Typically 42 degrees, 35 mile an hour winds. We may even have some mist going out there. Not quite enough to stop tennis, but take us back to your days at Glenbrook North. First of all, shout out. I got the gear on right now, so I'm representing.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, so I grew up in Northbrook, Illinois, and played my high school tennis at Glenbrook North. And my first year as a freshman, I played doubles. My brother played singles. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and we were fortunate enough to win the high school team championship that year, and my brother won the singles championship. So it was an exciting year for us as a family. And the team championship came down to my doubles match, and I was a freshman playing with another freshman against two seniors. And I mean, it was a long time ago, but I do recall it was very exciting. It was a lot of fun. Some great memories. And then the following year, I played singles as a sophomore. My brother already moved on to Northwestern, and I was able to win the singles championship my following year. And then that was it for me at Glenbrook North. But had a great experience there, and have fond memories of my days back in Northbrook and Glenbrook North.
Awesome. And just so you know, we've tried to keep you proud of the program. We've had some pretty special years. We've had state championships, team championships in 1999 and 2006. We had a singles champion, I think, in between that year. And then most recently, from 2015 through 2017, we were loaded, and we were playing for the highest of stakes, whether at the team stakes or individual stakes. And
fantastic.
We're trying to keep you proud, and it's so fun when you're playing at any level. Obviously, for the highest of stakes, it's competitive, it's stressful, but it's that fun type of stress. Which
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, congratulations on all your success there.
Thanks, we're trying. And then obviously beyond high school, you had an incredible junior career. You won junior Wimbledon doubles. You were a winner of 13 national junior events. You were runner-up in 12 national junior events. You won the 12 and under Orange Bowl. You were the runner-up 16 and under Orange Bowl. Safe to say you're recruited by some pretty top-notch schools. And I know, as I said in the intro, you wound up going to Pepperdine. You won the NCAAs in Pepperdine. But there's a story that kind of brings you back to where you actually are today at Clemson University. So
yeah,
tell us that.
Going through the recruiting process, it was very different back in 1984 when I was being recruited. It was not like it is today. Very few coaches at tournaments, very select coaches contacting you, didn't really get bombarded with tons of coaches like players are today. But I zeroed in on Pepperdine, Clemson, and UCLA were my three schools that I was looking at, and really wanted to go out west. So really, my gut was saying go out west, and I took a recruiting visit out to UCLA and Pepperdine, loved them both. And then I took a recruiting visit out to Clemson and really enjoyed my time there as well. And so I decided that it was going to be between Pepperdine and Clemson. Spent a lot of time, going back and forth. It was a very tough decision, talking with the family. And we finally over dinner decided, Clemson's going to be the spot that I'm going to go to. And I was like, you know what, I'll call the coach. I'll call Coach Creasy tomorrow morning and just let him know that night at 10 o'clock, I get a phone call from Coach Creasy, and he said, Robbie's like, I can't wait any longer. I've decided to give your scholarship to Jay Berger. And Jay went to Clemson. I picked up the phone and called Alan Fox at Pepperdine and said, hey, Alan, I'm coming to Pepperdine. I had a great career at Pepperdine. I loved it. It was, 4 of the best years of my life. I really enjoyed my experience there. Jay had an incredible career at Clemson, went on to play on the tour. I think he was up to number 6 in the world, Davis Cup captain. So he had an incredible career as well. So it worked out well for both of us. But it's interesting that, 30 years later, I'm back here at Clemson as the head coach, where I was supposed to be here as a player. So I'm thrilled to be back here. I absolutely love Clemson. I love the area. It's an incredible university, and feel incredibly fortunate to have the opportunity to lead this program.
Unbelievable how life works itself out like that. It really is cool. And thanks for sharing that story. And like you said, it obviously worked out for both you and Jay. You had an unbelievable career at Pepperdine. I mean, your senior year, not only did you win the singles championship, but you went 55-2. That's a heck of a lot of matches to play in 1 year.
Yes,
so
it was a different time as well, where the limits were a little different. We played a lot of matches, and we were very, very busy. But it was a great year. I had a tough freshman year. I played 6 as a freshman, and the player above me, Martin Lorando, who was the Davis Cup captain for Canada for many years, and Shapovalov's coach, and a great player in his own right, made the round of 16 of the U.S. Open. He was playing number 5, and he went 33-0 my freshman year. So I never was able to move up. I was stuck at the number 6 position. And then, at number 4, we had Kelly Jones, who was number 1 in the world in doubles and won 2 tour events and was top 100 in singles, and a great player and great coach as well. So we had a stacked team. But my sophomore year, I did well and played number 2 and finished 9th in the country in college. And then my junior year, I had a very difficult year, was not even ranked. I was injured pretty much the entire year, played very few matches, lost all my confidence. Came back my senior year. I switched rackets the first week that I arrived back on campus, from a small head racket to a larger Prince racket that I had never seen before at the time. I was like, I felt like I couldn't miss a ball. And then went on a tear and went 55-2 and was number 1 in the country in college tennis throughout the entire year. And so it was quite a turnaround, but it was really more of a mental turnaround, and from help from Kelly Jones, actually, who gave me this book to read before the season started, which I read, and it really, really helped me and put me on the right track, and had a really good finish to my college career.
Yes, you did. And then obviously you continued on to the Pro Tour, and we can't control when we were born. So I guess you could blame your parents for the type of the year you were born, because when you went on to the Pro Tour, you were there with arguably, not even arguably, the greatest U.S. Generation of tennis players there were, in the likes of Andre, Jim, Pete, Michael. You know all that list. And
Sure.
I mean, I remember one specific match, and you could talk a little bit more about generally going on tour with those guys, but I remember 1989, I was 14 years old, and as most kids during that time, when Andre was starting to take off, we all loved Andre. And I remember at the U.S. Open, you played him in the first round in 1989, and of course, I was a big Andre guy, but I'm like, you know what? This kid's local. This kid's right near where I grew up. This is pretty awesome. So I'll kind of let you run with your experience with that match, along with some of your experiences on Pro Tour.
Sure. So I had a fantastic senior year, playing great, tons of confidence, go out on the Pro Tour and struggled. It was not an easy transition. I think a lot of players find that you're going out there, you're getting beat up every single week. Struggled with a couple injuries, lost some confidence, was not playing well that first year. I was able to get through the qualifying in 89. I got a wild card in 88 from winning the NCAA tournament. I qualified in 89. I think I qualified on a Saturday. And they told me that evening that I was going to play Agassi first round in the stadium and on Tuesday. So I knew I had a couple days. I was thinking about it. I grew up with a very tough tennis father who was, very, very difficult, to say the least, one of the tougher tennis parents that you could ever imagine. And so a lot of negativity. And so I had a lot of negative thoughts in my head as a tennis player. I was very hard on myself. I was a perfectionist. Everything going through my head was mostly negative. The book that I referred to my senior year really kind of flipped the tables and everything became positive. But then I reverted after my senior year, when I got back on tour, when I started getting beat up on the tour, I started reverting back to that negativity. And I was in a really bad state of mind going into that U.S. Open, believe it or not. I don't know how I got through the qualifying. So I was really stressed out, knowing I was going to play Agassi in front of a lot of people, obviously in center court. And my dad was there. I was just not prepared to play, to put it lightly. And so I walked out on the court, and I remember literally shaking, walking from the tunnel onto the court to my chair, looking around, thinking, how in the world am I going to play here? There's just no way I can get through this.
This isn't court one. This isn't playing one singles at Glenbrook North right now.
No. I was not prepared for the moment. I didn't know how to handle it. I wasn't mature enough. And again, with all the negative thoughts and stuff, I was really terrified of the situation. And so I ended up losing 6-3 the first set. Second set, got it into a tiebreaker. I was up 5-1 in the tiebreaker. I was changing sides, and I thought, holy smokes, if I win these next 2 points, I'm going to have to be out here another 2 sets. So I had a lot of bad thoughts going through my head. I ended up losing that tiebreaker and losing 6-0 in about 10 minutes. And I just, all I wanted to do was get off the court. So I'm explaining the story because that was really the turning point for me, when I knew I needed to get some help with some sports psychologists. And I sought out Jim Lair, was at the time one of the top sports psychologists, an amazing guy. I spent a lot of time with him, and he really helped me turn my career around. And so from that point on, I was able to handle the situations a lot better. And being in the situation when I was playing Becker, Edberg, and Lendl, all these other guys, and being on center court at Grand Slams, I was able to, handle the situation a lot better, and obviously revel in that moment instead of being terrified of it. And it was a great experience for me. As negative as it was, it really helps me now as a coach to understand the other side of things and knowing what players are going through on the court, maybe not to that extreme that I was at, but I know players are dealing with their own demons, whatever they may be at whatever level it is. And I see that, I understand it, I know what they're feeling, and I'm able to help them just because I've been there. It hasn't been all roses for me. I've been through, the depths of despair to the greatest heights. So I've run the whole gamut of emotions on a tennis court, and it's really helped me as a coach.
Yeah, and I mean, when you did make that flip, I mean, you did get up to as high as 85, top 100 in the world. You beat all those guys again: Becker, Lendl, Edberg, Rafter, among a lot of others. We mentioned those 4 because they were number 1 in the world at one point. It's amazing how mental this sport is, and I think golf is even worse. It's harder in golf just because think about, you're out on the course for 3-4 hours, and you're actually hitting the ball for 20 minutes maybe, and you have all this time for in between the ears. And tennis and golf, it's so important.
Very
and it's
difficult.
great that you were able. It was great that you were able to recognize that and get help when you did, and go on to have a good career.
I mean, I tell my players, look, tennis is a brutal sport. It is very, very difficult, and it's okay to have these types of emotions. It's normal, but let's work on trying to improve it and figure out ways to get better. You're going to have negative emotions coming in. You're going to be scared. You're going to be nervous at times. You're going to choke at times. This is part of the game. It's very, very difficult sport. Yes. One of the toughest in the world, if not the toughest sport, not only with the physical aspects of it, but the mental aspect is very difficult. And so, giving them the break to say it's okay to have these types of feelings, but let's figure out ways to get better at it, because you can obviously improve, and even no matter how bad things are, you can always work on your mental side and make adjustments and get better.
Without a doubt. Thank you for sharing that. So after you are done playing professionally, you go into coaching, and I think you went into coaching right away, and you were at a few stops, and then you left the industry as a whole for a few years, and then you came back. So kind of walk us through that part of your coaching and career journey.
Yeah, my journey is very different than most. I went back to Pepperdine to get my degree. I still had a year to earn my degree. So I went back after I finished playing on the tour. I had surgery on both my knees that ended my career. I had a lot of injuries, unfortunately, when I was playing, but injuries did end my career early. I went back to Pepperdine when I was about 30 years old to get my degree. At that time, right when I arrived, Glenn Bassett, who used to be the head coach at UCLA, was the head coach at Pepperdine. And he retired. He decided to step away. And so the assistant coach, they made him the interim head coach, and they were looking for an assistant coach. And I was there going to school. And so I said, hey, can I help out? I would love to be the assistant coach. So I did that for a year. I earned my degree. I decided to move away from Pepperdine, probably a bad decision at the time. Looking back, I had a great opportunity. I was an assistant coach there. I love Malibu, but the cost of living was high. I had a bunch of friends in Atlanta, just thought I'm going to move to Atlanta, which I did. I started off as a physician recruiter. I had a good friend who owned a company. He said, if you ever need a job, I didn't know really what I was going to do. I wasn't 100% sure about college coaching at the time. I enjoyed my year at Pepperdine, but I wanted to just try some other things. That did not work out. Right around that time, Kenny Thorne at Georgia Tech, he was looking for an assistant coach, which I did for 2 years there. Had a great time. I was making $13,000 a year as assistant coach at Georgia Tech at the time. I was like, I can't survive here in Atlanta. I mean, I did have some money from the tour, but I was like, yeah, $13,000 a year. I'm gonna try to pursue a career in the finance world, which I had a passion for at the time. Stock market and so forth. So I became a financial advisor. I did a lot of trading, but that was tough. I then became a director of tennis. An opportunity was available in Atlanta. I did that for 5 years. Was able to make some decent money, but not really passionate about it. Didn't really enjoy it. And throughout this entire time, I knew college coaching was really where I needed to be. I kept on, I had this in my gut, this burning desire to get back into college coaching. So I then attempted to get back into college coaching. I got the head coaching job at Cornell. I was up in Ithaca. I was engaged at the time, 2 young stepdaughters to be, and just the situation from a family standpoint, it just did not work out. Just from school systems to weather to my wife just would not have been happy up there. The family would have been miserable. It was a tough decision for me to get out of college coaching at that point, because I knew that's what I really wanted to do, but yet I had to step away from Cornell because it wasn't going to work with my soon-to-be wife. And so I had to really, it wasn't an ultimatum from her, but it was coming from me. I chose my family. I got out of college coaching. I knew that could have been the death sentence for me at that point, that could have been the end of my college coaching career, because it's a very tough industry to break into. It really is difficult to get your foot in the door. So I went back to Atlanta so my stepdaughters could finish their schooling there. I went back into trading. I traded for another 8 to 10 years or so, 8 years. I taught some juniors on the side after the market closed, and just was biding my time to try to attempt it one more time once my girls went to college. So once I started going to college, I told my wife, I said, honey, it's time. You're gonna follow me wherever I go. I have to do this. This is what I really want to do. I have a real burning desire to be a great college coach, and I want to do this. And so she's like, let's do it. So I tried for about a year and a half trying to get my foot in the door. Couldn't get one person to respond to me. Not a single coach would respond to me, and it was really tough. I thought there's no one will give me an opportunity. I was 50 years old, 49 at the time. Not the age to try to get back in as an assistant coach. No one really cared about my background as a player. They could care less at this point. They were like, why were you in and out of college tennis so many times? They didn't trust my desires at that point. They weren't sure what my angle was. And so I cold called George Husak at Alabama and just told him that I'm dying to get back into college coaching. My wife is a graduate of Alabama. She loves Tuscaloosa. It was very close to Atlanta, where her family where she still has some family. And he said, look, I don't have a position open. If Ryler DeHart, who my assistant, ever leaves, I'm not going to fire him. But if he ever leaves, I would be willing to talk with you. turns out 6 months later, Ryler took the job at Florida State as an assistant. So the position opened just by chance. And so, the tennis gods were looking down at me, and he called me and said, "Hey, why don't you come to Tuscaloosa? Let's talk." So we talked. I ended up getting the position. And I told him, I said, "Look, you're not getting any assistant here." I said, "You're going to get a guy that's going to work, 10 times harder than anyone you could ever dream of," because the fire was burning so bright. And I had such a desire to make a mark on college tennis from day one. And, I worked tirelessly, for those 3 years at Alabama to really have an impact on the team and the program and the players. And through that hard work, we were able to go from a team ranked 77 in the country, finishing last in the SEC for 5 years in a row when I got there, to my second year making the round of 16 of the NCAA, beating Georgia for the first time in 15 years, to my third year being a top 20 team for the entire season. So we really turned the program around, quickly, and that caught the attention of some athletic directors. And I was fortunate enough to have an interview with Clemson when that position opened up, and couldn't be more thankful for the opportunity that I have now. I mean, I was very fortunate to get this position. I mean, there are a lot of great candidates going after the job, a lot of very qualified, excellent coaches that could have done an amazing job here as well. But thanks to the administration and Dan Radakovich and Stephanie Ellison to give me this opportunity is really a dream come true for me. And just like I felt going into the Alabama position, that I'm going to do whatever I can to make my mark here quickly at Clemson. I'm not, a 32-year-old young coach coming in who's got time to work their way up and build their resume. I'm going at it from, pedal to the metal as hard as I can every day, because I have a limited time, and I want to do great things here at Clemson and help this program and help the players that are coming in here achieve their potential and get on the pro tour and do great things and give back to these players, because I have a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and a lot of knowledge of the game that I want to give back to these young men who are coming in here.
My favorite part of doing all these interviews with coaches and players and whatnot, whoever's been on the podcast before, is just hearing people's journeys, and everybody's journey is so different, and yours is so cool. And a lot of times it takes sometimes for you to step out, try something else, to figure out, well, maybe that's not it, and this is what I really want to do. Sometimes it takes a while. And again, appreciate you sharing your experiences like that. The other thing, and I know it's a huge asset that you have in your back pocket, is that you've been through it all. Whether it's the high school, a great junior career, a great college career, a great pro career, you've beaten 4 or 5 former #1 players in the world. That has to be an unbelievable recruiting tool that you use. Your team recently, I think, was the #2 recruiting class that you just have for the 2020-2021 college season coming up. So you have that. You're also at a great university. We were talking as we were prepping before. I went to the University of Kansas. I'm spoiled. I think we have the greatest basketball environment there is. As far as Clemson University, I will say it is the coolest entrance in any sport, where the football team, they board their buses at street level, the ground level. They take that slow ride up to the top of the stadium. The adrenaline, the intensity is just building and building. You want to run through a wall, and they come down to the top of the stadium through the fans. I'm getting chill bumps thinking about it, because again, I'm such a huge sports fan. It is the coolest entrance in all of college sports. I know you love that as well.
It is amazing. And like I said, I mean, Clemson's a fantastic place, and it's a small town with a family environment, and we have the best, if not Dabo or Saban, we're one of the best coach in the country here for football. And so the bar set very, very high for all the coaches and all the different sports here to have a program as great as Dabo's, and not just from an athletic standpoint, but from an academic standpoint. He sets the bar very, very high from that standpoint as well. So I mean, I think my playing background helps in recruiting for sure. I mean, I obviously use that as a recruiting part of the recruiting process. I think that just my energy and my passion sort of comes through when I do talk to the players. I think they feel it. They get a sense that I'm really excited about the program and what we're building here. And I surrounded myself with a great assistant coach in Matt Walters, who was at Mississippi State and more recently was at Central Florida. He was coaching at IMG for a while as well. Played at Arkansas. He's an incredible person, one of the best recruiters in the country as well. So, I'm very fortunate to have him. And between the two of us, we hit the recruiting trail hard. And, I think Clemson, the highest ranking they've ever had in the recruiting polls was number 23 in 2012. And that was the only time they've ever been in the top 25. And so, I feel fortunate enough to have a good class coming in and to be ranked number 2. I know that's just step number 1. We have a lot of work to do ahead. I'm excited about the ranking, but that doesn't mean much. It doesn't correlate into a high ranking and success. It's a very good foundation and a great start. And now we have to build with the players that are coming in, and hopefully we can have a lot of success ahead.
Coach, this was awesome. I know you're really busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know we've talked for a while now. I was looking forward to getting you on here just to kind of go through your career. And again, we have something in common, being local and you playing at the high school where I'm currently coaching. I know it's kind of crazy right now. So I just want to wish you, your family, your squad, everyone be safe, and we'll get through this sooner rather than later. And hopefully we'll be back to playing some sports in the fall, hopefully.
I hope so. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you having me on, and keep doing your great work.
Thanks, Coach. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.